Rudolf Slawitschek was a German writer from Prague. Born in 1880 in Prague, the son of Wenzel Slawitschek and Alžběta Kohler, his father being a member of a family of hereditary gamekeepers from Persenberg on the Donau. After finishing his studies at the Prague Gymnasium, he began to study law at his father's request, studying at the Charles University. Following him earning his degree, he published several books on law in Austro-Hungary. In 1910, while visiting the city of Krumlov, he met, fell in love with, and married Margarete Müller, the daughter of Johann Müller, the director of the Krumlov estate of Prince Schwarzenberg. In 1912 his daughter Greta was born. In 1915 he had an accident where one of his legs was amputated when he fell out of a tram. In 1919 his wife died of the Spanish flu. In 1923 he married his second wife Margaret Neubauer. Slawitschek was employed as an official in Prague for many years, so he did not need to turn to literature in order to earn a living. In 1927 he published his first work of fiction, Der blaue Herrgott, the Blue Lord God, a tragical story set in a fictional border town in Bohemia and starring a German lawyer as a potential stand-in for Slawitschek, which wouldn't be the only time he incorporated autobiographical elements into his work. In 1928 he published his first book of fairy tales, Anastasius Katzenschlucker, der große Zauberer, Anastasius Cat-Swallower, the Great Magician, followed in 1935 by Von Zwergen und Zauberern, Prinzessinnen, Hexen und klugen Tieren, of Dwarves and Sorcerers, Princesses, Witches and Clever Animals. He was pensioned off due to his invalidity in 1930. In 1939 he published his most famous novel, Hans Adam Löwenmacht, Fantastischer Roman aus der Barockzeit. He died in Prague in 1945 at the end of the Second World War, though the circumstances of his death remain unclear. Hans Adam Löwenmacht takes place in Prague, Bohemia and the surrounding countryside in the 17th century. It concerns a young nobleman, Hans Adam Löwenmacht, the son of the mayor of the old city of Prague, Matthias Macht von Löwenmacht. Both characters were actually historical figures, with Matthias Macht being elevated to the rank of knighthood in 1669 by Emperor Leopold I. In the novel, Hans Adam is a young cavalier who is being introduced to various young ladies as their guide on their visit to Prague, in anticipation of the personal visit of Emperor Leopold to Prague. As he serves in this capacity, he meets Countess Mariana Lodron, who seems to like him as well, despite her own family being an old and established noble house, compared to his own rather new one. At the same time, the young Mariana is also being hounded by a Dr. Cardano, physician to the Venetian ambassador, whom she does not like at all, and who openly mocks Hans in the street, resulting in Hans lightly stabbing him. Around this same time, the plague comes to Bohemia and begins to ravage the country. Hans believes himself possibly afflicted, but he remembers that before, when visiting the Prague house of Dr. Faust, he found out that Dr. Cardano had come to the house before and fashioned a great mirror from a variety of small ones all along the wall, calling it a mirror portal to another reality where there is no plague. Hans actually manages to fall through the mirror and finds himself in a blue transparent mirror world version of Prague, where he meets a strangely mute version of his beloved Mariana, but must flee from the fire-based malicious inhabitants of this world called salamanders. But when he tries to get back into the real world, the mirror ends up amputating one of his legs, once again showing a parallel between Slawitschek and his work. What follows is a lengthy journey for the young Hans, winding up in a plague house, then being given a wooden leg by a hunchback, which brings him to the castle of a mad baron, who wants to turn him into a bird or tree depending on his mood. While there, he is fascinated by the Baron's daughter, the witch Faraildis, who has another one-legged man, an old war-weary Rittmeister, whom she torments and forces to hop about like a bird. The latter manages to orchestrate their escape from the Baron, but the two wind up in the hands of the hunchback, who sticks them both into a costume and parades them around marketplaces as the two-headed prince from a faraway land called Leandria, thanks to the aid of one of the hunchback's old friends, a murderous innkeeper and tailor who likes to rob the wayward guests who come to his inn, while also occasionally partaking of his wayward guests and their horses in the most literal manner, aka cooked. But once in the hunchback's hands, Hans discovers his Mariana, also a prisoner of the hunchback, after having both of her legs amputated. However, it may not actually be the real Mariana. Be that as it may, the good Rittmeister soon becomes Hans's love rival over Mariana, or what seems to be Mariana, and the two one-legged men fight each other in a duel to the death in the snow, where Hans ends up the victor, but he still finds himself alone and abandoned, imprisoned by Hungarian rebels, then sentenced to impalement on the order of Mariana's father, taking part in a diabolical reverse mass upon his escape, chasing his own possessed leg on horseback through the mountains, and finally returning home to his Prague house, thanks to the magic of a wise man worshipping an ancient pre-Christian deity hidden in the mountains. Once back in his house, he must face Dr. Cardano, who had taken over his life and appearance to try and win Mariana for himself. The story consists of mostly separate episodes, without any overarching nemesis, though initially the hunchback seems like he knows every thought the main character has, and can frustrate each of his attempts at gaining liberty, but then the Rittmeister stabs him to death without much difficulty, off-screen, which is kind of anticlimactic. The same can be said of the final confrontation with Dr. Cardano, which is resolved rather quickly and without much effort on Hans's part. The individual situations the main character finds himself in are amusingly written, sometimes with very gritty and morbid details. The one other minor complaint I have is that the mirror world, despite being set up for quite a few pages in the beginning, is only used for a little while and then is never featured again. The grim scenarios in this novel are well presented and the historical settings are well researched, and overall I can very heartily recommend it.